I hope you had you got a small break in between to have at least a coffee or stretch out. I can understand it's very difficult, especially we are so used to making others sit down and listen, you know. So, in fact, here at RI Mysore, um, I don't know how many of you have come to RI Mysore. So this is a place where we move around a lot from one building to another to take classes. So today I was really finding it difficult for me to sit and take a session for so long. Either you stand and teach, you know, as a teacher, or you move around. And I was just my assistant when she came and I said, I'm finding it so difficult as if my knees have got jammed. So I can understand it must be very difficult for all of you. And that it's not one day. This is 21 days, what you're going through?
12 days.
15 days, madam.
15 days is.
In the middle, we got holidays, so 12 days.
Okay, so it's quite difficult for teachers. You know, you can make children sit, you can even make parents sit. The teachers to make them sit and do some work is really difficult. Anyway, so you can, do. I don't mind you stretching out even on the video, so that doesn't matter as long as we just interact and exchange. So I hope you could grab a cup of tea or coffee before we start this session. Again, I'm coming back to, is there anything that you'd like to say before I start, or can I go ahead? Okay. The second session, as you must be aware with the title, has got to do with a very new, innovative assessment. Again, I'm coming back to what we were talking about, NEP 2020. And NEP 2020 has spoken about two important aspects. One, it has spoken about pedagogies, innovative pedagogies. And as I told you in the beginning, when you have innovative pedagogies, you need to have, how do you assess what you're teaching? You know, you're trying something new. And so how do you actually measure whether the new pedagogy that you're using is actually working out or not? So for that, you also have to have innovative assessment. So one thing is innovative curriculum and pedagogies always go hand in hand with innovative assessment. And today we are going to deal with one such very important innovative assessment that the entire country is going to use. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to hear about it or read about it, but I'll give you a small glimpse into what this new assessment, which is not only going to be for school education, we are going to use it for teacher education because we are there with NCT. Also, we had last week, we had the meetings with NCT. And this is going to come into the teacher preparation ITEP assessment also. So I will start with this. I hope it's visible. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Can one of you just?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Thank you. So, yeah. You know, this is called as, actually it is called as holistic progress card. Now, I want to tell you that I'll go a little bit deeper into it about actually what is Parak. Parak is actually the name. And I'm not doing the entire Parak because it requires almost 2 days to talk about Parak. Parak is a huge initiative on innovative assessment that has come about by the government of India. And through the CABE, all the states will be taking it. In that, there's one particular aspect which is connected with school education, which you will now take up in your teacher education institutions when you want to talk to or teach your teachers about, you know, like we have got assessment. I'm sure all of you have got in your B.Ed and M.Ed, you know, courses which you're running, you're having about assessment. And you talk about unit plans, you talk about blueprints and all. Now you will start talking about the 360-degree assessment. And this is what we are going to do today talk a little bit about this. I'm taking up only the school level. We also have it at the teacher education level. And holistic progress card is going to be for all professional educational institutions all across the country. So we'll start with this, and you'll understand why is it called a holistic progress card and why is it called a 360-degree assessment. This goes hand in hand again with the NEP's holistic education or holistic development that it's talking about. I'm just briefly trying to put before you what the NEP has actually spoken about, and it talks about what is the aim of assessment. The culture of our schooling should shift from one that is more summative or more test-driven, rote memorization to something that is more regular. I'll explain to you what this regular is when I'm going through future slides. And what is competency based. I hope you know that we are moving towards assessment that promotes learning and development for our students. And it also promotes higher order skills and how you can measure the higher order skills. It's not just going to be content or rote memorized material. We are also going to look at critical thinking and conceptual clarity. Now, these are not new terms for us in our assessment in India, especially those of you who know about CCE, that is continuous comprehensive evaluation, which India has been talking a lot about in all the states, in all the curricula, in all our B.Ed, M.Ed programs, we've been talking about it. But then now we needed to look at an action point that will bring in this. And so how this action point will come in, we'll go a little further when we look at what anything. So what they're talking about is the primary purpose of assessment should be for learning. You're measuring learning because you want to promote further learning. And when you're talking about continuous evaluation and comprehensive evaluation, you're not talking about learning, but you're talking about performance. Here, gradually, you will see that there are two different aspects. Performance is different from learning that happens. And that is one of the things that NEP is stressing a lot about, and how the entire school system will come into this teaching learning process, largely because you want to increase the performance. But to increase that performance and continuously make it, something else has to happen at the ground level. And that is what they are talking about in this particular thing. And going a little bit more further, the NEP also talks about a progress card. And it talks about the holistic progress card, which is a 360-degree. That means you measure all the facets of the individual child or the student. It could be an adult student. It could be. Now, NEP does not talk only about school student. An NEP is for the entire gamut of learning that's happening across all stages of the individual. So you're trying to talk about cognitive, affective, and the psychomotor domains that should find a place in the report card. That is very essential. And they also have brought in certain beautiful aspects about it. The first one, 360-degree, is about the individual. The second aspect that they talk about is about self-assessment and peer assessment. That means you're including not just what the teacher sees or what the teacher assesses, but the child himself or herself also makes an assessment. I'll show you a few report cards and you'll find it how interesting it is, even at the very lower classes in the school, what kind of assessment sheets are given to them to do it and what is peer assessment. So here they talk about portfolios. If you remember in CCE, we did talk about portfolios, but the portfolios included activities or other kinds of assessments which the teacher gathered, from the works of the student. Here, portfolio is not about that. It is about the student himself or herself also being able to assess, get the peer assessment, which is combined with what the teacher does. The third important aspect that the NEP talks about is building a link between the home and the school in the progress card. This has never happened in this country earlier. And this is for the first time that you're talking about children's holistic education and development, which should mandatorily include what happens in the home, or for the home also to make a say in the progress card. So these are some of the aspects that NEP has spoken about, and this has become the basis for what we are going to deal with today. So if you look at the progress card, It would also provide teachers and parents with very valuable information on how to support the child in the classroom. If the child thinks this is what I can do, or this is something that I don't know how to do, or this is what the friends feel that he's actually good at doing this, or the child's parents say that she is not able to do this. So then it gives the teacher a wholesome picture about the child, not just the teacher's own perspective about what the child can do. So this enables the teacher to plan for the future of a child. Another interesting aspect, one of you was talking about technology just in the previous section. And the holistic progress card also talks about AI-based software, which is going to come very simply in the phone, where the teacher and the student and the parent can access a lot of information about the child's report card, and it will help the child for further, future progress in the child's life based on what the child's progress line is like, especially in the higher classes. It will help the child to go for career options, career choices, because it will have the data from the beginning for the child in that app. So these are some of the aspects that NEP actually visualized what should happen in innovative assessment. And so what did the government do? The government of India, through its policy, actually set up a National Assessment Center, NAC. And the NAC brought about a PARAK. PARAK actually means performance. Actually, if you see the word PARAK means to look at, to see, to find, to understand. That's the actual word PARAK. So it is performance assessment, review, and analysis of knowledge for holistic development. So once you have the performance assessment, review, and analysis, it gives you an idea or knowledge of the holistic development of the child. So this is what parak. In Hindi, normally we say, usko parak ke dekhna. That means you can actually look at it based on certain evidences. That's the word parak. And the NAC, it's not NAA, it's NAC that brought about this. It set up PARAK as a standard setting body under the ministry that fulfills the basic objectives of setting norms, standards, and guidelines for student assessment and evaluation for all recognized school boards of India, guiding the state achievement surveys and undertaking the national achievement surveys. So hereafter, whatever we do under the achievement surveys would be under the PARAK. And now a little bit, I want you to know PARAK. The NAC's PARAK was set up in NCERT. It's now one unit in NCERT. It is an independent constituent unit under the ministry directly, not under NCERT, but it happens to be in NCERT. And it is set up according to the norms and the para of the Ministry of the National Education Policies 4.41. And PARAK looks into four major areas of focus: capacity build development and competency-based assessment. That means teachers and parents will be involved in competency-based assessment. This is one important aspect that has come about. Large-scale achievement surveys will be conducted by PARAK to see from time to time what is the progress line of children that is happening. And the equivalence of school boards. Now, one thing in India is like, all of us know that education comes under both the lists, and therefore you have you have schools either which are affiliated to a particular state board, or they could be to the center board. But we want one equivalence, and PARAK takes care of giving that equivalence to the school boards when it comes to their assessment and examinations. And the last one, which is the most important one we're going to deal with today, is got to do with your holistic progress cards, which are getting made for the 3 stages of schooling, which have come about with the NEP, that is the 4 stages, sorry, foundational stage, the preparatory stage, the middle, and the secondary stages. Now, those states which are not taking up the 4 stages, whatever stages they take up, PARAK will see that there is equivalence between their report cards and the holistic report cards of the PARAK. So now we'll go deeper into what is the assessment according to PARAK and how this assessment actually This is the first part, is a general part about assessment, which Parag talks about in terms of in its opening pages. If you look at, you can download the Parag document directly. It's in the public domain. You can go to the NCERT website, which is ncert.nic.in, and then just click for Parag. You can download the entire document for you over there. I will also share it with the HRDC so that you can have it with you when, if in case you have to, teach it to your own students or trainees in the colleges. Now, what are the effective assessment? Some of the key principles that Parag reiterates about assessment. First of all, it talks about measuring the attainment of competencies and learning outcomes which lead to curricular goals. One thing that has come about, I'm sure all of you already know about learning outcomes, So learning outcomes which have come about in all the textbooks, and how you teach for some outcome that comes out. That means you just don't look at the objectives, but you see that those objectives are fulfilled through your learning outcomes. And that's how your achievement surveys are built around learning outcomes. There was a gap between the text content, the achievement survey, and the learning outcome when we tried to measure it recently. So in the past, so many years, about 5-6 years, we've been going through the achievement surveys, especially NAS and the state achievement surveys which came about, and they realized that there's a big difference between the objectives that a teacher has of a content and the learning outcomes that students achieve. Why is there a backward learning outcome fall, which is happening? So they realize that we are not considering the competencies at that particular stage. That means, what is it that a student is supposed to attain at a particular stage in a process, not just the outcome. So that has been captured through competencies. That's why now we call it as competency-based learning. You achieve those competencies in the form of small tasks that are given, and finally you come to the learning outcomes. That makes it possible because at the year end, when you want that you finish some portion or a topic and you're measuring the learning outcomes for that whole subject, it becomes difficult. So competencies are there as a process. And this is why it is called competency-based assessment. At every stage, you're measuring it. I'll just give you a small example offhand, which I think will make you understand. Let us say, when you're having your evaluating or assessing a mathematics paper, and you're looking at a particular mathematics problem or sum which the child has done, you don't only look at the answer. You're looking at various steps that have happened. Where is it that the child has gone wrong? Because the answer is not this. If the answer is correct also, you have a certain amount of marks which are given for the steps. In the same way, competencies are the steps which should lead you to the learning outcomes. And you have these competencies listed out for every curricular goal. That means you have divided the subject into certain goals, certain objectives, broad ones, and you have built competencies, and at the end of achieving those competencies, the learning outcomes will come. This is what actually should promote effective assessment. And Parag has listed out the curricular goals and the competencies and learning outcomes. It has taken it as it is from the curriculum frameworks which have been developed now based on the NEP 2020. So what happens? Assessment obviously will be more constructive. Why is it constructive again? And developmental, because you're focusing on every small task that the child has been able to do. You're moving the child from the task to task. This can happen for school students, and this should happen even for adult learning, is what Parag talks about. It is more stage appropriate. Which stage are you talking about? At that stage, this is what will happen. And when you're talking about developmental goals, you know that what the FLN stage or what is at the preschool stage obviously will be different when the child enters into the first, second, or the preparatory stage. So stage-wise goals are given. Stage-wise movement is given for the child. It accommodates a lot of student diversity. When I share the report card with you, you will see so much care has been taken to ensure that different kinds of learners, different types of learning is taken into account when you're looking at assessment. And it is supported a lot by constructive feedback to students that are given from point to point so that the student knows how I am progressing. And it is based on certain evidences that the student himself or herself gives through the student feedback. It is very useful. It makes a very meaningful summation of the student's learning performance. So all these aspects which Parag talks about and says these are important principles for effective assessment, we have taken care when we made the thing. And now I'm continuing with it. It also talks about the aim of assessment. It has shifted the entire aim of assessment from summative and rote memorization to something that is more meaningful, regular. That's what you earlier talked about, continuous, formative, based on competencies, and it should be developmental in its nature. It should have higher order thinking skills, like critical thinking, problem solving, conceptual clarity for the child, the kind of mapping that the child wants to do, various kind of processes that the child wants to do with storage of information through your various kinds of cloud maps, etc., that the child will be able to show you that the child has attained at step-by-step attainment of the learning outcome. So this is the aim of assessment. It is not one shot. The primary purpose of assessment also, they said, it should be only for lifelong learning. That is why the Parag app is also like that. Continuously, the child gets to know what am I progressing from one topic to another when I move. And this learning should be for the teacher, the student, the entire schooling system, and all those who are involved in, so that you can make the learning optimal for the child according to the development of the child. It is very individualized based again. So, and it is also there for all schools, all the stages.
ಈ ಬೀರುವಲ್ಲಿ ನರ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ.
Then we come to, what is this thing? This, I think you've also heard of it.
ಏನು ಇಲ್ಲ. ಹುಡುಕಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಸಿದ್ದದು.
Shalini, can I request you to kindly mute?
Sorry, ma'am.
Yeah. So when we are talking about assessment, we've heard of these terms earlier, but I'm just reiterating it because it's given in the Parag as it is. Assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. This is just like, recalling what we've already learned earlier, but Parag again gives a meaning to it. Whenever you're talking about assessment of learning, you're measuring the achievement. The present report card which we've been following right now is largely assessment of learning, where it is largely as whatever achievement in different subjects the student has, you're giving it in the report card. What is assessment for learning? It is the evidence of student learning, which the teacher gathers from various sources. It could include the teaching learning processes that are there, and the various types of assessments that the teacher uses, the various pedagogical practices that the teacher uses, and sees the child's participation in that. That becomes assessment for learning, so that you see that learning continues to happen. So it actually supports better student learning, and it helps the teacher to change her practices. That is one of the main things that Parag talks about. Based on the student's performance or the progress, it is not just for the student. It is an important learning tool for the teacher to take back that I need to change certain ways of my teaching because it is not working with this set of students in the classroom. You also have a next thing that has come about very recently with a lot of research that has shown that students themselves can play a very important role in the learning process when you involve them in the assessment, because they begin to reflect upon whatever you're giving them. But if you're giving it to them as an achievement, let us say it's just a set of marks, it may demotivate the student. But if you allow it to be in such a way that it provides a self-reflection for the student to think, I went wrong here in this step, I need to improve on this step, my communication skills are very good, my presentation skills are very good, but it looks like I'm not able to cope with the kind of concept formation that has to happen. So this kind of breakup which you do is very constructive for the student, and this is what is assessment as learning. Assessment as learning, where the child learns, reflects on the assessment that has happened. It becomes a part of his or her learning. So in school education particularly, the Parag talks about using these three kinds of assessments mandatorily at all stages of school. Now coming to the main topic, that is the holistic progress cards. These holistic progress cards or PARAG, they are the holistic progress cards. Largely, they are robust and they are a comprehensive reporting system which is designed very, very thoroughly and meticulously to evaluate and articulate students' progress and performance in alignment with the curricular goals. Just give me 1 minute, please. Yeah, I'm sorry about it. There seems to be some issue here with the UPS, so just wanted to set that. Yeah, we'll go ahead with this. The holistic progress card, it is a very important and comprehensive reporting system, because it is a reporting system. I want you to understand this basically. It is a reporting system to basically three clients, that is the student, the teacher, and the family who's connected with the learning. It not only evaluates very regularly, but it also articulates in the sense, because it gives information about the student's progress, and very nicely it is given in alignment with the curricular goals, the competencies, and the learning outcomes as it is there in each of the curriculum frameworks, whether it is foundational stage or the others. The holistic progress card is again individualized. Each child will get like the progress card that you have now, the same way we will, but it will be very comprehensive in including all the domains, and all the areas of learning will come into the progress card, with the dimension of all the three clients being involved in each step. That is what is very unique about it. And the HPCs are also formal means of communication between the school and the home. And it also gives aspect of self-evaluation for the student. When you include self-evaluation, there is an aspect where the student will be able to have a better self-understanding where he or she stands, whether it is unduly very high or unduly very low about himself or herself. So this is one aspect of knowing about himself or herself and his or her learning processes that need to be changed. And they are designed basically to help teachers and educators to keep track of learners' progress, and also about their own teaching methodologies that come in. I'll just go to, now coming to Parag's 360. This is a 360 degrees multi-dimensional report card. And when we look at it, you'll see that it includes, one thing it takes care is that every learner is separate and unique. We don't compare the learners. We don't compare one's report card with another. And that learner's cognitive, affective, psychomotor domains are taken care of. So this includes both physical, cognitive development, socio-emotional development, language proficiency, vocational learning, that is also taken care of, cultural differences that can exist, which parents are bringing into the report card. All these aspects are also taken into it. The holistic progress card also relies on the competency-based activities, because it is connected to your curricular goals, and it is also multidisciplinarity in its views, because you'll see the activities, how they are combined in the holistic progress card. This is all the theoretical aspect that I'm giving you. When I actually show you one of the progress cards, you will understand it better. Now coming to the progress card, it is not a single letter or a single digit or a score that you give. It gives you a complete matrix. That's what they use. It provides disaggregated reporting. That means all the aggregates are all reported so clearly for the student. So it is based on whatever evidence that the student has done in each sample, project, portfolio, artwork, his communication, what the parents, all that finds a place in this report card. And it also focuses largely on students' progress, individual students' unique plan, which I told you, not comparing it with other students. So each student, what their highlight is, let us suppose that a particular student's domain is higher in terms of emotional. What are some of the things that he or she is very good at is reflected? What could be the other aspects that could take into view? Not comparing it with the emotions of others. That is the most important part for the teacher too. And that feedback you will see when I show you a sample, how it is given in that. Then beyond being an educator's guide, the HBC also facilitates student self-evaluation, self-reflection, introspection, which I told you earlier, trying to be able to judge their own learning from their perspective, whether they are right or wrong in telling that I understand or don't understand something, but their performance is something else. So what happens is here, the student feels like he's a part of the entire learning process, where the educational journey is a complete whole. It's not just coming, learning, being participated, but I can evaluate what I am doing. That's why self-evaluation is very interesting. And this is an aspect that was taken from other countries, but it works out very well. When you put it for the student, and a lot of research has shown that self-evaluation helps individuals to promote their own learning in an accelerated way. It also gives feedbacks from parents, from teachers. So it is very collaborative in its nature. And what happens is, for educators, it helps them to plan their pedagogical practices for the future, because they don't look only from their perspective. Parents have something more to say. Students have something to say. Even their peers have something to say. So it is very collaborative and very holistic, even from the client side that comes about. Going a little more deeper into it, one of the best things about holistic progress card is it fulfills multidisciplinarity. It fulfills holistic development, which NEP 2020 talks about, because it integrates various pedagogies. Like one of you recently, in the previous session, you spoke to me about how the art teacher and the science teacher, the maths teacher sit together and they make it. This finds a space in the report card, where there is integration of sports, toy-based learning, how the activity of science through an experiment, which was to do with toys or which had to do with certain materials, which was something to do with sports. This is very, like, in one of the classes, one of the researches that was tried out, and this is very interesting on how to make an integrative assessment, is where after a run, after the student has engaged in a sport where the student had to run from one end to the other end, they were asked to measure their heartbeat and how heartbeat, and they had to study about the organs of and how the heart functions. This activity which the teacher made them do actually helped them to understand what happens to heartbeat or accelerates heartbeat. So this kind of activities where you integrate other pedagogies, you integrate other subjects, actually gives you a better, this finds a place in your HBC, how you integrate sport with other subjects and how it gets measured, and that gets reported in the, that's why it is not only comprehensive, but it is so very detailed when it comes to the report card. It also prepares students for the subsequent stage. I told you one of it is AI, where they want to make it an app, and subsequently you will see that the student can keep track, or the parent can keep track of the child continuously over several years of what is the kind of performance of the student that happens. It need not be a hardbound, scorecard that the teacher has. It can be brought about through this kind of a facility. This is one interesting aspect that came about, just 1 minute. I think there's some, we jumped a few slides, I'm not sure. You'll be doing steady. That's fine. Okay. Then coming to the HPC, how it actually looks like, I'll show you now. And before I go to that, I just want to tell you that it gets mapped, with the learners with different dimensions. Now, this is something like how it look like. You have general information in part A. I'll be showing you a real report card, but before that, I just want to tell you, in the middle stage, I've just taken one example of the holistic progress card. At the middle stage, how it will look, you have general information which is given in part A. And this general information is all about the student's information. Then it also tells all about me. That means specifically about myself, how this report card reflects certain aspects about me. My ambition card, which is collected from me. As a student, my self-reporting, which gets reflected in the report card. Then you have the parent-teacher partnership card. That is one sheet where the parent tells about certain curricular goals, certain learning outcomes that the student needs help in, or the student is very good at. And the student's actual progress that has been captured in school, and with a lot of other activities that come in. And then finally, you talk about the holistic summary for the academic year. That means for that year, part C will have the entire set of, reported very beautifully about what has been that academic year in the school that the student has had to work with. So this is how it creates a holistic report about the entire learning of the teacher, and it enables the teacher to assess the next step, what should be the next step in the teaching for the teacher, or to track the learning of the student. One thing that's very important in the holistic progress card is it is assessed based on two particular aspects. One, abilities. What are the abilities of the student, and what are the performance descriptors? You need to describe. See, what I told you at the beginning, that there is a gap between the learning outcomes and the in the earlier NAS that we had, we found that we were not able to capture the learning outcomes, and the NAS showed that in some states the learning outcomes in certain subjects was low. And we found that the discrepancy is not just with respect to the learning outcome or the individual's learning outcome, but it is the progress that could not be captured in the right way. So keeping that in mind, we have performance descriptors. That means at which level are they? At which step is the performance of the individual? You should be able to describe that. It's very interesting that the same kind of descriptors are going to be taken up for your ITEP. When you're going to describe your teacher trainee or student teacher's performance, it's going to be on the same abilities and the performance descriptors. I'll just give you one one slide here. As it is, I have taken this from Parag. I've the source is Parag for this. You will see that when you're talking about abilities, you're talking about their awareness about a certain ability. Let us say, for example, presentation skill using some material. So what is their awareness about, their ability about it? Is it awareness? Is it their sensitivity, how to use it? Or is it their creativity? That means these are three levels of your ability. For all of us, abilities can be measured on three levels. And these three levels, again, were arrived at based on a lot of research on how human ability can be measured. Because ability is not one per se. It has certain stages when we go for ability. First, when you're talking about awareness. Now, what is it? You're having knowledge related to an understanding of that activity or task to be conducted. What is the understanding of the child with respect to that task? I've been asked to measure the circumference of a tree. What is my understanding of it? Now, when you look at, the next, being informed about the activity and its various factors. I have understood what the teacher has told me about that particular activity. I've been able to understand it. Being able to understand the activity requirements. That means if I have to do this activity, I need to follow these steps. The child is aware about it. Being attentive, perceptive, and being able to cognize the surroundings of it. That means the child is aware of all this, being fully engaged in the process of conducting the activity. I can engage in this activity fully because I have all these steps. This will indicate that the individual has awareness. That means the ability is at the awareness level for that activity. The next is sensitivity. When I'm going to engage in an activity, what is the sensitivity that I have about that? Managing and expressing emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in line with social norms and that are relevant to the activity. I'm sensitive that if I do this activity, let us say, for example, I have to walk up with my steps to go till there to measure from the classroom. If you remember in the previous class, I told you, measuring the distance between the classroom and the playground. So the steps which I take, I am quite clear that I am doing this for myself. I'm not going to trample over somebody else's measurement, which they are doing. This kind of being able to control your behavior, being able to engage in an activity quite conversant with what others are also doing. This is the level of your ability with respect to sensitivity. So what you see here is that it shows your progress in your performance. It also shows your overall development in that particular activity. So the next aspect of sensitivity would be largely being attuned to the emotions and needs of others. My friend who can't walk, I'm quite sensitive that probably my friend wants to use my steps. My friend is in a wheelchair. So your sensitivity to be able to help out to others to make that, finish that activity. Next would be perceiving or understanding a problem beyond logical or analytical. That means, am I able to solve the problem by analyzing that I need to reach out to my friend who can't walk? So that is a sensitive issue, and approaching conflicts with empathy. When I am taking my steps, my friend is constantly crossing the way and my steps are getting stopped. I have to recount my steps from the beginning. I'm not losing my cool, but I'm able to tell my friend openly that don't cross when I'm completing the activity. Give me my chance of my presentation. This is the level of sensitivity when you are having an ability to perform a particular activity. And the last stage in any human ability is always creativity. We know this. We all know when you talk about the 150 abilities that have been given in the structure of intellect, when you talk about divergent thinking, creativity is always possible as an ability only at the last step when you achieve that ability where you can think in terms of your own way of doing an ability. And that is generating innovative, original solutions to a problem. I don't want to use my steps to measure the distance between my classroom and the playground. I want to use a thread to measure it. Actually, the teacher gave me a thread to measure the circumference of the tree, but I can use the same thread to measure that kind of thinking, creativity, where you can solve a problem or complete an activity in a totally innovative way is the highest level of your ability in an activity. That should get measured, especially at the school level. Demonstrating inventiveness, thinking flexibly, trying to solve problems, all that have come in our structure of intellect have found a place over here. Looking at situations from different angles, questioning, rethinking, reconsidering how the activity can be done, and using a lot of ideation and concepts from everywhere so that you can complete your activity. So all this has to be captured in when you say that a student has an ability to do this. At which level is the student in that ability? That has to be captured, and this is what the HPC also has. I'll show you the sample where they beautifully capture it. The next one that I spoke to you about was about performance descriptors. This is an innovative assessment part aspect that is going to find an important place in all school report cards in this country, and one that is so important because you're going to describe the performance, not just numerically, not just through a grade, and also give the level of that performance. Are they beginner, proficient, and advanced? You will see, interestingly, NCT also talks about student teacher performance based on performance descriptors. Again, the same three have been given: beginner, proficient, and advanced. In the beginner level, when you're talking about is there an indication of a challenge which the student finds the activity to be a challenge, and where the individual feels that I can't do, I can only demonstrate my ability to this stage, and I need additional support to complete this activity. That is a beginner stage. When you come to proficient, there is a potential. That means the student shows a possible potentiality in doing that particular activity. It is there innately inside the student that he can complete the activity successfully. And there is progress in the activity and may require some support from the teacher, but the student is able to complete it either with the support of the student or the teacher or the peers. The last one is successfully completing it independently and collaborating with others to help them complete their activity and using external support with very less. This performance indicator is essential for us in order to find out, to help understand what is the performance level of the student. You can't simply put it as a grade or as a score or a number that you give it as performance is this in this particular activity. So these are important measuring tools. They are more qualitative in nature. We are trying to see how authentic and how standardized we can make some of these things, because we're still in the progress and we're still trying it out through a lot of research in this country in various states to see how this can be done. I'm going a little bit further. I'm going to, now this is how, Parak has got two parts. We have Parak for the FLN stage, for the middle stage, and preparatory and the middle stage. The secondary stage is getting ready based on the research that we have got. Every Parak document is based on heavy research, which has been conducted at national level. So we have two parts to every book. One, which is how to fill the holistic progress card, which is something like a guideline for the teacher. It's a handbook for the teacher. And the next one is what is the Parak exactly? What is the holistic progress card? Here I'm giving you one sample. Now this is how the outer page looks like, because I told you earlier, it's by the Ministry of Education, and this is how it will look like. And I'm just going to show you one sample. Let me just go. Okay, I just got a sample for you here. This is how the Parak looks like. This is the opening page of the middle school. And yeah, coming to part A, you remember I told you part A, you have this general information about the student, the address and the parents, the number of siblings, the medium mother tongue, whether they're rural, urban, the attendance that about the student, it all finds a place in part A. Part A1 and part A2, which I told you, is all about me. With whom do I live? And this will be for all the classes. This is for middle stage. It's also there for the other stages. So what do I do in my free time? You see how the child reports about what they do. I am responsible sometimes, most times, all the time. It gives you some kind of description about the child so that you understand the uniqueness of this child and you don't try to compare the child's child with another child. So that's why you have this page on all about me. This is one part which has been taken from report cards from around the world, where it says it's very important for a teacher. If you want to actually assess the students, you need to understand what do you know about the student first of all. So this page all about me actually helps you to get a better understanding about the student. All about me and my goal. What is it that's so important to me? this goal is important to me because what is the academic goal? Maybe my goal is that I should be able to complete learning this topic within this particular stage or this particular time frame. So why is it important to me? How will I achieve it in 1 or 2 steps that the teacher talks, that the student talks about in terms of my personal goal? Now, how to fill this in is there in your handbook, which the teacher will do it in the classroom with the children, and they fill in this particular page. Here the child also writes about 3 new things that I learned at school this year, 3 new things I learned outside the school this year. This is very important because you're involving the child outside the school, especially with parents and the community. This is something that a child tells for my teacher. I want my teacher to help me with this. I want my teacher to know this about me. I'm not able to do a particular activity. I'm not able to work with a particular group. I don't want to belong to this group when I do a group activity. Those things come about here. And the HPC guidebook, or what I told you earlier for the teacher, the handbook, gives you how these 2 pages can be done. The 3rd page is very interesting. It talks about my ambition card. Actually, what is it that I want to do in school or outside the school? What are the 5 skills that I feel should be my ambition, and how I will achieve this ambition, and what are the subjects I need to focus if I have to achieve this ambition, and what should be the way that I prepare myself if I want to achieve this ambition. This is again given by the student, and there is an activity in the guideline very beautifully about how the teacher actually makes the students to achieve this particular, this part of the thing. It also says,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Slide is not moving.
Is it moving now?
It stood at holistic progress card.
Oh my God. Okay. This link didn't open for you?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, no.
Oh, I've been talking about the link. 1 second, 1 second. Can you just give me 1 minute, please? I'm so sorry. I didn't know that it's not working. I will come to one.
It's okay, ma'am. It is about general information, no? We understood about that.
1 second. Just give me 1 second. Oh, I really had planned to show this to you, so it's important. I'm trying to share it again. Can you see it now?
No, ma'am.
No, madam.
Is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I've already finished talking quite a bit of this. I'll just quickly go through. So I was talking about these pages, part A, which I hope you listened to it. I don't know if I can go through it again, the time. This is the attendance, then all about me, how the child fills in. These guidelines are given to teachers in the handbook. And this is the ambition card that we were doing about, how the child will achieve this ambition is also there, and the teacher guides the child to fill it. This is the parent-teacher partnership card that I was talking to you about. In a holistic progress card, how all the three clients are taken into on board, the student, the parent, and the teacher. This is the partnership. So you tick the resources available to your child at home for the child to learn. So this is one part which parents do it for they tick it. Then understanding of my child. What is the understanding the parent has about my child? My child seems motivated to learn and engage with new concepts learned at school. Sometimes the parent may say that, no, my child is not at all motivated in school. This will give an indication to the teacher that, probably the processes that the teacher is engaging with in teaching is not good. And this child needs some other help. So these are questions given to the parent. And this also is a part of the holistic progress card. That's why I said it is a 360 degree in two ways. One, it's a 360 degree about the child itself from various kind, like the cognitive, affective, psychomotor, socio-personal, emotional, everything. 360 degrees also about all those who are concerned about the parent, about the child. So the parents, the child, the peers, and the teacher, it's 360 degrees in both the ways that you find in Tara. So at school, my child needs support with this. Which are the subjects, which are the skills that I feel my child needs more support from you and in school? So the parent actually ticks this part. Then based on discussion with the teacher, I will support my child at home. That means the parent and the teacher have a discussion, and then the parent writes that these are the things I can do at home. I will not be able to do at home these things. So then the parent also reports it there. Wherever parents cannot write, wherever parents cannot report, the guidelines are there for the teacher as to how to fill that in. That part is also given. So again, this is term 2, where the earlier one was for term 1, the second one is for term 2. Then you come to the most important aspect which the teacher fills in. Language 1. I've just taken one example of one of the subjects. This is language 1, reading 1, that we call it as R1. And then you see over there it's got L1, CG1. That means what is the curricular? We are talking about middle stage, if you remember. When I started the presentation, I told you it's got middle stage. I'm giving you an example. At the middle stage, what are the curricular goals for language? That will be for goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, goal 4, goal 5. Which goal are you talking about? And what are the competencies? What are the activities that were conducted? Did you integrate? Like one of you, has spoke beautifully to me in the morning saying you integrated with language, is integrated with art, language is integrated with sports, with toys, with technology, any other that you do. What was the activity? How long was it and what materials did you use? What is briefly the sequence of that activity? Then you come to what I told you. Remember, I had told you about the abilities and the performance indicators. What for language you have literary awareness. Is it a beginner? Is it a proficiency level, or is it at the advanced level? Is there awareness? Is there sensitivity? Is there creativity? So what is the literary? Literary here is the ability. So what is the awareness level of literacy? What is the sensitivity level? What is the creative? You just need to circle the relevance performance indicator for that. Is he at the beginning level? Is he at the proficiency level? Or is she at the advanced level? Then you have the student's self-reflection. The student himself gives a self-reflection about himself or herself with respect to each of the levels in the progress grid that is there. I was able to learn something new. I was attentive to every detail of the activity, or I was able to understand the emotions of my peer because my peer was not able to do the activity. I reached out. I was able to take calculated risks and finish my performance. So at which level is this performance progress grid? You will be able. This is for teachers use, where you say number of statements circled as a number of, that means when you're saying A, awareness, S is sensitivity, C is the creativity. You say how far has the child achieved it, and my learnings, what is it by doing this activity I learned? That part comes in. This is the peer feedback, where again the peer gives a progress about his or her friend. The peer can choose which friend they want to talk about, whom they know well. Normally the teacher in the guidelines, you will see that the teacher helps them to understand this and they give a score according to this. This is the teacher's feedback about the whole progress wheel. What is the awareness? What is the sensitivity? What is the creativity in terms of performance level by the teacher, by the student, by the peer with respect to each of the aspects. This is how they have given a very beautiful understanding. Of course, this we have borrowed it largely from, there is also for the teachers, I added this so that you will understand what is a learning goal. A curricular goal is given like this. If you look at the, of course, you're going to go in detail with your students when you have to look at the frameworks, the curriculum frameworks. You're going to do it in exercises with your B.Ed and M.Ed students. You will understand what are curricular goals. For language, develop capacity for effective communication using language skills. For description, analysis, and response is broken up into small competencies. You remember I told you about competencies, they're very important. How they can, pick out main points. This is at the middle stage, if you remember, it is 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. So here the child will be able to read news articles, reports, editorials. What is the language one skill over there? What is the competency? Those competencies are listed, and from this the teacher will pick up for L1, C1, C2, and this thing like this is the way it is done for each, and the learning outcomes that come. Part C is the summary of the entire academic year. This is for term 1, term 2, and how for literary 1, literary 2, mathematics, scientific, social. This final chart gets prepared based on how it has happened. So, this is how the holistic progress card looks like when we talk about it. And this is how now they are also planning to do it at the different levels that are happening across the country and different states that are happening here. So I'll just stop the screen saving here. And maybe we can move ahead. If you have any questions here, anything that you'd like to ask